2 million years ago, your ancestors weren't at the top of the food chain. They were prey, barely 4 feet tall, alone in the grass at dusk. And something with teeth like daggers was already watching. These are the monsters that hunted us, before we ever learned to hunt back. No claws, no fangs, no fur thick enough to matter. Early humans survived in a world ruled by predators that had been perfecting the kill for millions of years. We weren't the strongest. We were the slowest meal on the menu. In South Africa, scientists found the skull of a child who lived nearly 3 million years ago. Punctures in the bone didn't match any land predator. They matched something with talons, something that struck from above. A crowned eagle can carry prey twice its own body weight. For a small hominid child wandering alone, there was no warning. Just a shadow, a rush of wind, and then nothing. But the sky wasn't the only danger. On the ground roamed a hyena, unlike anything alive today. Pachikrakuta, standing taller than a modern lion, with jaws strong enough to crack open the thigh bone of an elephant. These hyenas didn't just clean up leftovers, they hunted in packs, and fossil evidence from caves in Europe and Asia shows early human bones mixed in with their kills. For early Homo, a hyena den was a place you did not want to be found. Imagine a small band of early humans, huddled around a dying fire, hearing that low, bone-rattling call echo through the dark. There was nowhere safe to run. Then there were the cats. Not lions, something older, stranger, armed with curved blades for teeth. Saber-toothed predators ruled the same landscapes our ancestors called home, and some scientists believe one species specialized in hunting hominids specifically. Researchers named it Dinophilis, the false cat. Its fossils are found again and again near early hominid remains in South African caves, leading to a chilling theory. This predator may have followed our ancestors as a primary food source. At a site called Swartkrans, scientists matched 2 puncture holes in a hominid skull to the exact spacing of a leopard's lower canines. The bite mark fit perfectly. The predator had carried its kill straight up into a tree, halfway across the world in the country of Georgia. Archaeologists uncovered something remarkable: early human fossils lying beside the bones of a giant saber-toothed cat called Meganterion. Proof that our ancestors and these killers shared the exact same hunting grounds. Unlike modern lions, these cats didn't chase. They waited. Hidden in brush or rocks, they relied on one explosive burst of speed, and for a slow-moving hominid, that burst was almost always enough. Water meant survival, but it also meant danger. Every river, every lake was a trap. Beneath the calm surface, ancient crocodiles twice the length of a car lay motionless, waiting for thirst to bring prey within reach. There was no second chance at a crocodile attack. One explosive lunge, a death roll, and the water would go still again, as if nothing had happened at all. Even the grass itself could kill. Giant constrictor snakes, some over 20 feet long, were powerful enough to crush the breath from a grown adult, and patient enough to wait for hours without moving. Ancient wolf-like predators, known as Xenocheon, didn't rely on strength alone. They hunted in coordinated packs, surrounding prey from multiple directions, a tactic that left even alert, cooperative hominid groups dangerously exposed. A lone hominid had almost no defense against this kind of coordinated hunt. Survival depended entirely on one thing: never, ever wandering alone. As humans pushed into colder lands, the monsters only grew larger. Cave lions, bigger than any lion alive today, stalked the frozen valleys of Ice Age Europe. Apex predators with almost nothing left to fear. Caves offered shelter from the cold, but they were already occupied. Cave bears, far larger than modern grizzlies, considered these spaces their own, and disputes over the same shelter could turn deadly for either side. But something was changing. Early humans discovered a weapon no predator could overpower: fire. A flickering flame could hold back even the boldest hunter in the dark. Stone-tipped spears meant a threat could be met from a distance. A predator that once saw easy prey now faced something it had never encountered before: resistance. And perhaps the greatest weapon of all wasn't a tool, it was cooperation. Tight social groups, shared warnings, coordinated defense. Predators that once picked off the weak now face something unified. Slowly, the balance shifted. The same creatures that once fled in fear became the ones being avoided. It didn't happen overnight. It took millions of years, countless losses, and the relentless drive to survive. We survived eagles, giant hyenas, saber-toothed cats, and crocodiles built like tanks. Not because we were the strongest, but because we adapted. So the next time you feel unprepared for a challenge, remember what your ancestors walked through to get you here. If this blew your mind, hit subscribe. There's a lot more prehistoric history where this came from. You're standing on frozen ground, wind cuts at -20. In front of you is an animal the size of a city bus. It weighs 6 tons. Its tusks are longer than you are tall. You're holding a stick, and you need to kill it. These weren't superhumans. No metal, no horses, no ranged weapons beyond a thrown spear. They were anatomically identical to you. Same brain, same body, same fears. And they killed the most dangerous animal alive, not once, but for tens of thousands of years. How? The answer will completely change how you think about early humans. We're 20,000 years ago. The last ice age is at its peak. Europe and Asia are covered in something called the Mammoth Steppe, a vast, cold grassland stretching from Spain to Alaska. It teems with life: bison, woolly rhinos, cave lions, giant deer, and above all of them, the woolly mammoth. The woolly mammoth, Mammothus primigenius, 4 meters tall, 6 metric tons. Tusks up to 4 meters long, used to sweep snow and as weapons. A thick hide, layers of fat, and a coat of dense wool and guard hair, up to 90 centimeters long. It was built to survive, built to endure. But it had one critical weakness. All that fur, all that mass. It's a thermal trap. A running mammoth generates enormous heat it cannot release quickly. Its core temperature can spike dangerously within minutes of sustained exertion. In short, a mammoth cannot run forever. A human can. Strategy 1. Persistence hunting. You don't overpower the mammoth, you simply don't stop chasing it. A group of hunters would select a target, usually a young animal or one separated from the herd, and begin the chase. Not at full sprint, at a jog, sustainable for hours. The mammoth bolts. The hunters jog. It hides in a tree line. The hunters track it. Footprints, broken branches, fresh dung. It runs again. They follow. After 2, 3, sometimes 4 hours of this, the mammoth begins to stumble. Its legs shake. It can barely lift its head. That's when the hunters close in. Strategy 2 was less elegant and far more dangerous. Drive the animal somewhere it couldn't escape. A cliff edge, a bog, a narrow canyon, a ravine choked with deep snow. The hunters would spread out in a wide arc, shouting, waving torches, herding the mammoth like dogs herding cattle. If it worked, the animal fell or became stuck, and the hunters moved in. Strategy 3. Patience. Mammoths needed water, and in the frozen steppe, water was scarce. Hunters would find a known watering hole and simply wait, days if necessary. A mammoth wading into icy water was slow, compromised, partially immobilized. The attack came from multiple angles at once. And one more, winter itself was a weapon. Deep snow crippled a mammoth's movement, sapping its energy with every step. Hunters on snowshoes could move with terrifying efficiency through the same terrain. Archaeological sites in Eastern Europe, like Mezherish in Ukraine, show systematic mammoth kills that only make sense in winter conditions. The primary weapon was the thrusting spear. Not thrown, thrust. Directly into the animal at close range, typically 2 to 3 meters long, made from spruce or ash, tipped with a carefully knapped flint or obsidian point. archaeologists have found spear points lodged in mammoth bones, evidence of where hunters aimed: the lungs, the belly, the base of the skull. Then, around 30,000 years ago, everything changed. Someone invented the atlatl, a spear thrower, a simple lever device, usually 30 to 60 centimeters long, that effectively extended the hunter's arm. The result? A spear could be launched with 3 times the force, and from a safe distance. This was the Paleolithic equivalent of a firearm. It changed hunting forever. Once a mammoth was down, or dying, hunters used stone-tipped knives and bone tools to finish the kill quickly. Speed mattered. An injured mammoth could still kill. And other predators, cave lions, hyenas, were always watching. The finishing kill required courage that is almost incomprehensible to us today. These hunters had no armor, no backup, just the people next to them. Here's what none of these strategies could work without. Not the tools, not the knowledge, communication, coordinating 15 to 25 hunters across kilometers of terrain without radios, without signals beyond sound and sight. That required a level of social sophistication unlike anything else on Earth. Language, planning, trust. Hunts were not chaos. They were choreographed. Scouts tracked herds for days in advance. Drivers positioned upwind to herd animals. Stalkers crept into position from downwind. Lancers, usually the strongest, moved in for the kill. And back at camp, others prepared for what came next. We know all this not from guesswork, but from archaeology. At sites like Pavlov and Dolny Vestonice in the Czech Republic, Sunghir in Russia, and Mezhirich in Ukraine, researchers have found thousands of mammoth bones, processed, stacked, shaped into tools. Spear points embedded in bone at angles that reveal precisely where hunters stood. Cut marks showing systematic butchery, not scavenging. These were planned operations. Picture the final moments. The mammoth is exhausted, cornered, breathing in heaves. Hunters circle at a distance of 10 meters, far enough to dodge a charge, close enough to throw. The lancers move in from the flanks where the skin is thinner, behind the shoulder, toward the heart and lungs. One well-placed thrust to the ribcage, then another. The animal's legs buckle. A downed mammoth was not a victory, it was work. Butchering a 6-ton animal takes multiple people, multiple days. Stone tools sliced through inch-thick hide. Bones were cracked for marrow, one of the most calorie-dense foods available. Organs were eaten first: heart, liver, kidney, the most nutritious parts. Meat was dried or frozen for storage. Nothing was wasted. Skin became tents, clothing, footwear. Long guard hairs were woven or stuffed for insulation. Bones and tusks became structural beams for shelters. Some of the oldest known human houses were built from mammoth bones. Tendons became bowstrings, rope, thread. Even the stomach became a water container. One mammoth could sustain a group of 25 people for 2 months. Let's talk about who these people actually were. Not brutish cave dwellers grunting at each other. At Sunghir in Russia, 34,000 years ago, archaeologists found a burial. An older man interred with over 3,000 mammoth ivory beads, carved fox teeth, and 2 long spears. This was a person of status, honored by a community that cared enough to spend hundreds of hours making his grave beautiful. These were fully human beings, and they were learners. Every hunting technique, every tool-making method, every piece of knowledge about mammoth behavior, passed down verbally, demonstrated, practiced. Children watched the hunt from a young age. Teenagers handled tools under supervision. This was education. The same learning process that built universities, laboratories, and space programs. It just used mammoth bones instead of textbooks. They also recorded what they knew. In caves across Europe, Chauvet in France, Altamira in Spain, Fond de Gaume, artists painted mammoths with startling accuracy. They captured the domed head, the sloping back, the layered fur. Details we only confirmed when frozen mammoths were found in Siberia thousands of years later. These paintings were not random art. They were knowledge. You might be asking, how do scientists actually know any of this? The answer: multiple converging lines of evidence. Zooarchaeology, the study of animal bones found at human sites. Lithic analysis, examining what stone tools were used for based on microscopic wear patterns. Isotope analysis, what people ate encoded in their bones. And occasionally, extraordinarily, the mammoths themselves. Over 40 reasonably complete woolly mammoths have been found frozen in Siberian permafrost, their last meals still in their stomachs, their DNA intact enough to sequence. One, Layuba, found in 2007, was a 1-month-old calf so well preserved that her eyelashes were intact. These animals let us test what Paleolithic hunters knew against what we can now measure scientifically. Almost always, the hunters were right. Here's the question that haunts this entire story. Woolly mammoths survived for over 300,000 years. They outlasted dozens of ice ages and warm periods. Then, between 15,000 and 4,000 years ago, they vanished. And the timing lines up, almost everywhere, with the arrival of modern humans. The scientific debate is real. Some researchers argue climate change, the warming at the end of the last ice age, destroyed mammoth habitat. Others point to overkill. Everywhere humans arrived, mammoths disappeared within a few thousand years. The current scientific consensus is both. Climate weakened the populations. Human hunting finished them. We didn't mean to. We were just too good at what we had learned to do. The very last woolly mammoths lived on Wrangel Island, a remote island in the Arctic Ocean north of Siberia. Isolated, they survived until approximately 4,000 years ago. The Great Pyramid of Giza was already standing when the last mammoth died. They didn't go extinct in the distant past. They were almost our contemporaries. The mammoth hunt is more than a history story. It's evidence of what human beings are capable of when they cooperate. Groups of people with no technology beyond what they could make with their hands, outsmarting and outlasting the largest land animal of their era. Not through strength, through planning, communication, and trust. That combination, intelligence plus cooperation, is what made us the most successful species on Earth. And here's the thing, you carry those hunters with you. The endurance physiology that let them chase a mammoth for 4 hours. That's in your legs right now. The social brain that coordinated 20 people across a kilometer of tundra. That's how you navigate every relationship in your life. We are not separate from these people. We are these people. Research into Paleolithic hunting is moving fast. Ancient DNA analysis is revealing population structures, migration routes, and even the genetics of hunting groups. New sites are being found in melting permafrost, in receding glaciers, in riverbeds. Every year we understand these hunters better, and every year what we learn makes them more impressive. There's one question that always stays with me. When the last mammoth died on Wrangel Island, 4,000 years ago, did anyone notice? By then, humans had cities, writing, agriculture. No one wrote it down. Somewhere, the last of a species that had shared our world for hundreds of thousands of years simply disappeared. And we weren't watching.